It is crazy to think that we are less than 23,000 subscribers away from 200,000. I honestly never thought we'd get to 100,000. So thank you so much for all the support, all the likes, all the comments. You guys' comments are amazing. Somebody told me in the last video that I needed to dust off my camera lens, so I did that. I would be lost without you guys. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much. Maybe I'm more clear now than I was a couple days ago, which is great. I didn't even know I needed to do something like that. So hats off to you. I appreciate that. That is just Fanny in a nutshell, I guess, and somehow that still translated to 177,000 subscribers. So thank you so much. You guys are amazing. We're going to do something absolutely massive at 200,000 subscribers. I don't know what it is yet, but it'll be big. For 100,000 subscribers, we spent like $10,000 on vintage product and then opened it all up and got everything, all the hits like custom graded. Like we did this huge pack break, 100 winners. It was a lot of fun. We'll do something even bigger for 200. So if you're not subscribed, make sure to spread the channel. Tell your friends, tell your families, tell your grandmothers. Grannies love the Fanny. That's what they say, at least. I'm done selling out right now. I got asked yesterday during the stream how many sets Pokemon typically puts out on a yearly basis. And I started thinking, I think it's 6 right now. It's been 6 for the last few years. It used to be 5, and then before that it was only 4. They didn't do specialty sets. And then they went to 5 because they did 1 specialty set a year, and now they do 6. They do 2 specialty sets a year. So we had Prismatic Evolutions. That came out in January. We'll have another specialty set. It looks like June, that throwback to black and white. But then I started scratching my head a little bit. I think next year we'll have 7. If Pokemon continues like a normal pattern, which would be really interesting. Obviously, Pokemon knows what to do. They're going to pump out as many cards as they can to try and make money. So January, there should be a specialty set, I would assume, and then another one in the middle of the year, like June. But then I would assume, like what we had with the 25th anniversary when Celebrations came out, that we would still have one in October-ish, because that would be the 30th anniversary set. So I guess time will tell. But 7 sets is a lot, and that's not even including all of the collection boxes, all the tins, all the ancillary products that come out, and that just adds a whole lot of cards, a lot more additional unique cards that people want to collect. For any of those true like master set chasers, any of those true gotta catch 'em all slogan lovers, which is absolutely insane to me. There are people out there who literally try and collect one of every single Pokemon card ever printed, which is crazy. And we're going to talk about promo cards because promo cards continue to do really well, and a lot of them do. Not even just like the modern promo cards, but a lot of older promo cards as well. So I've got 15 different cards that we're going to look at. Some of them modern cards that you probably have in your collection that have just really exploded over the last year, but continue to trend upward despite the fact that the market has cooled off a lot. The market has gone through a lot of ebbs and flows. We've seen that over the past year. That's why I never recommend investing in singles. Buy at the bottom when you can if it's something that you need, and when you see it kind of peak, maybe hold off on it and transition or pivot into a different niche or a different area of the hobby. Write down what price point you're willing to pay for some of those chase cards that you really want, but don't go above that. There will be more chases. There will be more cards that have been released or that will get released that you absolutely fall in love with. And that's why you find a lot of big time collectors, or a lot of collectors in general, who find a card that they love that is their chase card, maybe their favorite card, and a year down the road something else comes out that they want even more, or that they realize there's so many different options out there, so many different opportunities, that there might even be a card out there that exists that you love even more than your current favorite card. So it's always important not to overspend or anything like that, and that's really what we try and preach on this channel, is not to FOMO, not to buy into any of that FOMO. But some of these cards, while the market is correcting in a lot of areas, especially with modern cards, illustration rares, special illustration rares, we've talked about a lot of that. Promo cards continue to thrive. Some of them are still doing really well. So I'm going to flip you guys around so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And we're going to start out with one of the older promo cards right here. This is an Ancient Mew. And it's important to note that there are 2 different variants of this card. So if you have an Ancient Mew, I would look at the bottom of the card. This is the normal variant right here, which was actually the error. This card got printed quite a bit. It got released and distributed with one of the first movies that came out. I think it was the second Pokemon movie that came out officially, is when the Ancient Mew promo got distributed into movie theaters. And there was a lot of them because Pokemon was going going through a boom at the time, but there were so many of them printed that they didn't realize at the time. QC has always been kind of this black cloud that flies over Pokemon. At the bottom, the word Nintendo is spelled wrong, so it says like Nintendo, like they're missing an N or something like that on the bottom of the Ancient Mew card. That is actually the more common variant. They did catch this mistake and they reprinted and redistributed, but in a far less quantity. So if you have an Ancient Mew card and you look at the bottom of it and Nintendo is spelled correctly, then that card is actually more rare than the original one that we're looking at right now. So you can see some insane growth numbers. You're looking at almost 86% growth over this variant right here, the one with Nintendo spelled incorrectly, and the one that actually is spelled correctly is even worth way more than this. But just this growth pattern on the original variant has been absolutely bonkers over the past year. You can see $28.98 a year ago, back in April. That's where it was hovering at, and it was just kind of natural growth. A lot of other stuff we saw really sprout up starting in November, and you do see some large growth numbers here in January. Like you see some of these promo cards really start taking off at the end of the year, but there was still a strong growth pattern happening prior to that. So a lot of people kind of pivoting on their collection goals and maybe going back further into older promo cards or different promo cards and things like that. And this Ancient Mew jumped all the way up to $59.76 recently. It's sitting at $59.07 right now, so it's gained about 86% over the past year, doing extremely well. Here's the Eevee. This is the year of Eevee. This was an older promo variant as well. You can see the number 11 in the lower right-hand corner. I think this was a Game Boy promo originally when it came out. I could be mistaken. It might have also been included in one of those like Power magazines or something like that. I can't remember. There was so many promo cards that came out. And originally, Wizards of the Coast, when they were putting out promo cards, they didn't really put out too many promo cards from the get-go. And they kind of numbered them all in order. Nowadays, you have promo cards everywhere because there's so many ancillary products that come out. There's check lane boosters and 3-pack blisters, build and battle promos. They didn't have all that product back then. Back then, you had starter decks, you had booster packs, you had booster boxes, and that was pretty much it. You had sleeve booster packs, and that was like it for some of those original Pokemon cards that came out when Wizards of the Coast was doing the printing. And they kind of released promo cards eventually, starting with like the first movie that came out, and then moving forward, and this Eevee card has really taken off. It is the year of Eevee, and you can see that buyout happening really in the beginning of January there. It kind of blew up. Now you're looking at about 177% growth on the year, so relatively flat and actually trended downward a little bit from April of 2024 until July of 2024. That's when it hit that one-year low of $12.29. Went up a little bit, then went back down a little bit in September, and then starting in September, started growing a little bit until January. That's when it really took off because it did start getting bought up a lot. Now it's jumped all the way up to $36.06, so it's sitting on an all-time high. You're looking at about 177% growth. A lot of these older Wizards of the Coast Pokemon cards, also it's important to remember, they're very hard to find in like near mint condition because a lot of people were just kind of throwing around cards back then. They were putting them in their bicycle spokes, like they were just kind of messing around. They weren't sleeving things and grading things as much as what you see nowadays. Here's the Pikachu with the gray felt hat. We've talked about this a million times. Despite the fact that this is just a raw copy here, the amount of PSA 10s and PSA 9s in circulation, really graded cards in general for this specific card, is absolute insanity. Even with the reprint, this card trended downward. It hit like $70, $80. You can see went down to $89.12 back in October of 2024. Then it really started taking off. As soon as that surge started happening, a lot of people started getting back into the Pokemon card game. Then it really started taking off again. So you can see not really huge buyouts that were happening in January or February. And the actual, like the trend shows that the demand for this card actually started going down, but the price continued going up. So even at higher price points, people were still willing to pay that, causing the market price to shift extremely high. And that's why you see 263% growth over the past year. It did top out at 350.21 recently. Now, about 2 months later, it's still sitting very high at 342.96 and continuing to trend upward. Here is the Snorlax promo. This is number 49. So this is still from like as soon as Wizard of the Coast, I think, transitioned over to Nintendo. So I think this is like right around the board borderline. I think this was maybe one of the last cards that Wizards of the Coast kind of put out, but a really cool looking card. You've got the Eevee sitting there sleeping next to the Snorlax, providing some shade. Very cool looking card, already trending upward for the majority of 2024. You can see in April it was sitting at $42.34. It was trending upward throughout the entire year up until December, hit about $60, and then really started taking off, jumped up to about $112.50, which is where it's currently sitting. So really massive growth, about 166%. So that's another older promo card right here. Here is the Charizard EX from the Paldean Fates tins. This one started out really strong. We're still looking at a year's worth of data here, and a lot of people were buying up just the Charizard variant of the tin from Paldean Fates on the Pokemon Center website. I don't know why they listed it like separate. They should have just put like one tin up there and it was just a random artwork. But the Charizard EX has really taken off. You can see in July of 2024 it was sitting at a one-year low of $4.26, despite the fact that at that time Charizard EX was a super playable card. Now Charizard EX has actually fallen out of favor and the buyouts have slowed down on this card, but it's still continuing to trend upward because there is still demand for it. So you still see, 75 copies selling pretty much on a weekly basis, and because of that, it's really seen some tremendous growth, sitting at $12.21, which isn't like a huge number by any means, but if you look at where it started at, you're seeing 125% growth over the past year, doing extremely well. The Vaporeon V, and it's really all of these cards from those Evolution boxes, the ones that feature the alternate art variants of Vaporeon, Vaporeon VMAX, Flareon, Flareon VMAX, and Jolteon VMAX. We've seen ebbs and flows of this card a lot, but it has gone up quite a bit over the past year. You can see it sinking down in April. It actually jumped all the way up to $45. We saw a lot of buyouts happen in April of 2024, specifically targeting those alternate arts, where all of a sudden out of nowhere, large quantities and volumes of products sold. These singles got manipulated like crazy, and then they crashed. In July, you can see this one fell all the way down to $24-ish for its one-year low, and then started trending upward again. And then you can see in November, all of a sudden out of nowhere, 60 copies selling on a weekly basis, which is way more than the norm. Typically, it's going to sell between 10 and 20 copies, so that price point definitely got bought up. And then all of a sudden, it just continued to climb because people were still willing to pay the higher prices, because those sealed boxes of those Evolution collection boxes, like, they continued to climb as well. This one hit $54.32 recently. It's sitting at $51.07 right now, so still up about 84% on the year. The Iono, this one saw some recent growth quite a bit. This is the milk carton that came out. We do have the Lily's milk carton that releases this upcoming weekend. It all started with the Marnie milk carton. That's why you got to be careful with these, because the Marnie milk carton, which originally came out, started out really high, where it was selling for double, triple MSRP, and the allocation numbers for it were really low. However, it didn't hold very well, and it's still kind of sitting at the same point right now, even 4 or 5 years later, as what it was when it originally came out. So that's why you got to be really careful with some of these. There's been several different variants of the milk carton that they've put out. This Iono right here, a very playable card, obviously a fan favorite for a lot of people, was trending downward the majority of 2024 because there did seem to be a lot of those Iono milk cartons that were available. Distribution had quite a few in stock, and even after they were out of stock, they still found more Iono milk cartons. In October of 2024, it did fall to about $10.86, but then really started growing and growing quick. So it's jumped up about 29.5% on the year, but way more than that. You can see it's jumped up almost 100% over the last 6 months or so, since October of 2024. Now it's sitting at $22.66, which is just off of its one-year high of $23.55. Here's the Charizard EX. This was from the end of the era XY. There were some collection boxes that came out, one of them featuring Charizard, one of them featuring Blastoise, one of them featuring Venusaur. Charizard EX doing extremely well. This card is very difficult to find in like perfect condition, because back then the packaging wasn't great on those promo cards. They didn't come out super easily, but you've got the cool hidden Pokemon in this with the Magmar in the background, the Flareon in the background. April of 2024, there was a fair amount of quantity that was being sold, but it didn't really shift the price too much. It was still at $37.23, and then started gaining some ground up until October, kind of hovered around $60, and then stayed there really until January. Then it took the next step up. Now it's jumped up to $90.93, so you're seeing about 133% growth on this one. The Koraidon EX, this is a Pokemon Center exclusive. A lot of those Pokemon Center exclusives still doing well, not as well as what they were doing originally. Some of them have retraced a little bit, like that Charmander from Obsidian Flames has retraced a little bit. The Snorlax has kind of leveled off a little bit. The Koraidon's still doing really well. Some of those lower priced ones, like the Pecharunt, things like that are still doing well. Obviously, we had a Shrouded Fable restock yesterday on the Pokemon Center website, and a Prismatic Evolutions restock on the Pokemon Pokemon Center website. So huge shout out to those who were able to get some of those. It seemed like it was up for quite a while. April of 2024, this was sitting at $13.49. That stamp made such a big difference. You can see consistent growth all the way up until October. It got all the way up to about $30, which is really strong growth. And then it really took off after that. You can see some abnormal sales volume happening in January there, and then again at the beginning of February, where there was about 27, 28 copies that sold on a weekly basis, where the normal is around 5. So definitely some abnormal activity going on, but it's still, the price point has continued to trend upward. Now it has backed off a little bit. It hit $81.14 recently. It's currently sitting at $75.83. This might come down a little bit more yet. So if you're somebody who likes to collect the stamp promos, definitely pay attention to that one. Here's the Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno Stained Bird promo. This came in your Hidden Fates Elite Trainer box if you were lucky enough to get one of those. Obviously, we talked about Hidden Fates last week and the growth pattern that that's seen over the past year and the continued growth that it's experiencing. But this promo card is going absolutely nuts. You can see relatively flat from April of 2024 up until about August. And then all of a sudden, it really started taking off. So it was ahead of the time of the boom that we've seen in Pokemon. That started more in November after the release of Surging Sparks. This one was already gaining a lot of legs. So it was $16.14 in August as its one-year low, and then really started taking off. You don't see too many weird, wacky sales numbers happen, except maybe in December there were about 120 copies sold on a weekly basis. But even with the uptick in the price, you still see strong quantities of sales that are higher than what we experienced in 2024. April, May, June, you're seeing around 20 sales happening a week. Now you're still seeing about 40, 50, 60 sales happening a week, despite the fact that the price is much more expensive. So it's sitting at about $52.40 right now. That's about 179% growth on that one. Here's the Pokemon Together promo. Pikachu, the Eevee, also doing well. I believe these were promos that you got on the Pokemon Center website. You can correct me if I'm wrong. In July of 2024, this was a $12.63 card, but those exclusive promos with the stamps do extremely well, and this one is no exception. You can see it ballooned up to about $65 before coming back down in January, hit about $50, and then ballooned back up again. So now it's up about 480%, sitting at $82.19 and continuing to climb. Here's the Pikachu V Union card. This is from the Celebrations collection box. This one has done really well also. This is the set of 4. You can sell them individually on TCG Player, or you can sell them in a set of 4. Obviously, they're not making V Union cards anymore. In June of 2024, this is sitting at $4.13. Saw a little bit of growth, saw a lot of growth in October as all of a sudden we had this large amount of sales happen where 200 copies were sold on a weekly basis, which is insane. Then it kind of trended back downward in January, and then all of a sudden you do see buyouts happening where it jumped up to about 215 being sold. But it is still selling, not as liquid as what it was before, but it is still selling. Now it's up about 160%, sitting at $11.17. That's just off of its one-year high of $11.58. Here's the Mega Gengar EX. Gengar always just does well. We've been preaching this for years. Gengar is always one of those cards that if you want to buy it, you have to buy it early on because it's just always going to climb and climb and climb. As far as like, if you do decide you want to buy singles up, Gengar is like one of the only ones that it's like you buy right away because it just keeps going up. It's just such a popular Pokemon for a lot of people, and Gengar fans are like the most loyal fans in existence. April of 2024, it was sitting at $35.88. Slow growth, right? Like it didn't like balloon or anything like that until about February, but it did grow quite a bit from $30 all the way up to about $65. And then February, it really took that next step forward and jumped up. Now it's sitting at about 204% higher than where it was at this time last year, sitting at $109.29. So this is a promo version. There also is a normal variant of this card that was released in Phantom Forces. Obviously, you have the full art Gengar in that set and the Mega Gengar, regular art, and the secret rare. This was, I think, a GameStop promo. I could be wrong on that. This is the shiny variant featuring the shiny Mega Gengar, doing extremely well. Here's the Pikachu and Zekrom. We recorded a alternate art video the other day talking about tag teams. This is one of the promo cards. So the promo cards that were alternate arts from the Sun and Moon era also doing crazy things, but I did include the promo cards in this video rather than the alternate art video. This one doing extremely well. Relatively flat from April of 2024 all the way up until October of 2024. You can see in July it was sitting at $23.37. That was its one-year low. And then you can see some obvious manipulation going on in January, where all of a sudden out of nowhere, large amounts being sold where it was like 35 on a weekly basis instead of the normal 5 that it typically sells. But it is still liquid. It is still selling normal amounts now. Even after the huge price increase, it's jumped up to about $104.22, which is where it's currently sitting. It was up to $108.22, so it's lost a few percent from its one-year high, but you're still looking at about 346% growth over the past year. We talked about Gengar before. I wanted to put another Gengar in here just to kind of showcase it. This is a Gengar holographic promo from one of the Champions Path collection boxes. So this is just a collection box promo. You can see relatively flat, already a little bit higher than what you would typically see a collection box promo, especially just a holographic rare. But in July of 2024, that's when it was at its one-year low of $9.29. Again, that's typically already a little bit high for a holographic promo from a box collection. But you can see just a large buyout happening. It's a really cool artwork. It's a happy Gengar. And then in October, despite the fact that there wasn't really any manipulation going on, it just got like, it's just the demand was there, and there wasn't enough copies to hit to satisfy demand, and because of that, it blew up in price. Hit $30.83 recently. It's currently sitting at $30.60, so you're looking at about 166% sales growth over the past year. So some modern promo cards, some older promo cards doing extremely well in a market that's actually trending downward for a lot of cards. So very interesting to look at. You can comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Maybe you have some of these. Let me know in the comment section which ones you have. I hope you enjoyed the content. Thank you guys so much again for everything. If you did enjoy, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below, leaving a like, leaving a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm, but ultimately, I just really appreciate you guys being here and giving me the opportunity to do this. You guys are awesome. I love you. We'll be back tomorrow with another video. Until next time, peace!